All right. Hey man, thanks for doing this.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I'm really appreciated. For those of you who don't know, this is my friend, Coach Dane Miller. He runs, everything through Garage Strength. Like Garage Strength is the name of your main fitness business,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Garage Strength, Throws University. I have a strength training app known as Peak Strength.
That's right.
And then I have an Instagram, Ghostface D Miller. So if you're listening, go follow me on Instagram.
Yeah, Dane is always like way better at putting actual useful knowledge out into the world. He has his own video podcast that has interesting guests on. Mostly you though, man, dropping like knowledge and getting it out in there. He's a really good educator, but he's also a tremendous coach. And we're here in Norway at the 2025 Weightlifting World Championships. Dane has an athlete on this team. Her name's Anna McElderry. She was a really talented junior athlete this is her first senior worlds, right?
Yeah.
So we're excited to see her compete, but I'm a big fan of the way Dane does things. It's been really interesting watching him grow as a coach from afar, like somebody who also was growing as a coach during that time. And I really wanted to have a conversation with him about, how exactly a coach becomes who they are and like how they create their philosophies, what kind of steps they go through. What's really unique about Dane is that he's not a no offense, he's not a weightlifting coach. He does coach weightlifters and he is a weightlifting coach, but I wouldn't put you in that box.
Mm-hmm.
He coaches elite throwers, including Samoa's first medalist at World Championships, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Just
first Olympic finalist too.
Yep. So they just came back from that Tokyo World Championships, and his first Olympic finalist was that in Paris.
Yes.
Okay. So really, really high level throwers, and you coach you coach disc, you coach shot.
Mm-hmm.
Do you coach hammer?
I have a hammer thrower, Tyler Williams, who threw 76.85, and he got fifth at the trials and fifth at the world trials this year.
Yeah.
I don't do his technical work, or I don't do his. I would say I'm much more of his hype man and consultant is how I would place my description with him.
Well, sometimes that's all a coach is somebody who makes some really good suggestions for an athlete, right?
Yep.
So elite throws coach, no question. Elite strength conditioning coach, like you have a factory in Garage Strength. Like you guys are like churning out D1 athletes regardless of the sport, whether it's wrestling, football players,
Swimmers.
Swimmer. I mean, This doesn't matter. So to give you all that context, if you didn't know Dane, this is a person who isn't specialized like a lot of people in my world, I guess, weightlifting. He's coaching a lot of different sports. What's kind of cool is that you're like tracks a lot like weightlifting in that you seem to be the strength conditioning coach, but you're also the technical tactical coach.
Yes, that's right. In my case, that is accurate. It's accurate. It's nice. And it makes things easier to manage.
Nice.
From a coaching perspective.
It's all streamlined. So you're on one page. So like, I think that's something maybe we can get into a second, like at some point. I think it's really unique about weightlifting, and it seems to be unique in your case. But I wanted to go all the way back to the beginning. So I'm really interested in this idea of you're an amazing coach. How do you get there? What steps did you feel like along the way? There's kind of like this, let's say it like formative phase, everybody like you're a child in the coaching world or something like that. And maybe you're not even a coach yet. There's maybe like a turning point, like something really big happens in your life. And maybe it's multiple things and it starts to accelerate you. And then there's like kind of being at the top. And like, once you're at the top, like almost like the things you need to focus on almost change because you're just dealing with different athletes maybe. Yeah. So anyway, I want to start all the way to the beginning. Can you talk a little bit about your just career, your formative bringing in physical culture, like an athlete, maybe how you grew up and what level, how far you went as an athlete before you started transitioning?
Okay. So for me personally, I grew up in a household where my mom was a swim coach and my dad was a wrestling coach, and they happened at the same time of year. So we would have wrestling practice. We would have swim practice. We played football, soccer. I didn't play football until 7th grade, but played soccer growing up, played baseball in the spring. And basically for me, up until 7th grade, it was sort of like you played as many sports as possible. And having two parents that are coaches, everything sort of came back to you were just expected to go to practice. You're expected to go to wrestling. You're expected to go to swimming, and all these things happen. And there was really no decision-making process outside of like, how good did you want to be once you would be there? And I think, when I was just first listening to your question, for me personally, I was fortunate enough that I had my dad, who was a wrestling coach at a high school. He coached a lot of really good wrestlers. One of his wrestlers was like went and fought 7 fights in UFC.
Okay.
So he had some very, very talented guys in his room. And so we were always around those dudes. This one wrestler's named Carmelo Marrero. So he fought Czech Congo. He fought Ryan Bader, like some pretty big name dudes. And so he being around that group with my dad sort of had this pretty positive impact on me right away that like we had to do something extra outside of just going to swimming, just going to soccer, just going to football, whatever it might be. And by the time I was, in 8th grade, it was like, okay, I want to be good. My dad sat me down, and he's like, all right, you're either going to swim and play soccer, or you're going to wrestle, play football. And at the time I hadn't gotten into track yet. I was just doing baseball. So that was sort of like the decision-making process at that point when I was in 8th grade. So having that as my physical impact early, I think was huge. And then having there was another factor. I'll try to explain this as quickly as I can. Outside of seeing my dad's wrestlers, but seeing a wrestler from my high school when I was in 8th grade won the state title. And winning a state championship in Pennsylvania is like,
it's a big deal.
It's like you become a legend.
Yeah.
And that for me was genuinely huge. His name's Jake Stork. You can look all these people up, and like, so in our wrestling group at my high school, it was like, who's going to be the next Jake, right? Who's going to be the next Jake Stork? And so that was sort of the impact that I had. I had my own coach at my school. My dad was at another school, and it sort of helped me get more dialed in and recognize that you had to do extra stuff. And my mom, being a swim coach, and being, swimming is a very challenging sport, a very technical sport as well. That sort of that foundation from that sport, I could then use to carry over to, the other areas.
Wow. So what I heard there is like, you cheated a little bit. You were raised by 2 coaches, man.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So coaching culture is like in your blood. You don't know anything else. Like your parents are coaches. And so you see that example. And then you had, because of your father's wrestling system, like a high performance environment to look at, whether it's like, sure, it's not the Olympic training center program, whatever, but there was, it sounds like there was a culture of, this is the standards we set. We hold ourselves to high standards, and we're going to work really, really hard.
Yeah.
And you just see that growing up, and you're like, this is what we do.
Yeah. To clarify that, and I'll make this short, is like, we didn't have wrestling in PA is like, you get schools canceled. Okay. There's snow everywhere. School's canceled. You got to go to wrestling practice.
Yeah. You got to get done.
So
doesn't matter.
There's we would call it Dick's Barn. We're going to Dick's Barn. You ride a quad, you ride a snowmobile, you get somebody with an old Ford Bronco. That's how it was like, okay, when my dad would pick up Mello, we'd still go wrestle. We'd still get it done. And it's like, we had these huge, like a propane tank flamethrower to heat the mat so the mat wasn't so hot.
One. Yeah. Yep.
So it's like you grow up with that edge, and you're like, okay, our day off to go sledding or do anything else, we have to go practice for 2 to 4 hours in the morning, even though the roads are closed, even though school's closed, right? And it's like, it's so expected. And then knowing, Carmelo was so good, and he had another kid, Chris Galino, who's good, and Jake Stork, who I had mentioned, was a state champ. You knew what their habits were. So you knew to achieve that, you just follow what they did. Yeah, you just follow in that light. So I think that's like for me, as a young kid, you're very impressionable.
Yeah.
And like That was right around when AOL Instant Messenger was. I don't know if you remember that, but like we would be AOL. You'd be at AOL Instant Messenger. Hey, you going to wrestling? You going to wrestling on these days? All right, we'll pick you up at this time. And like that was what our conversations were based around. At least in the morning. At night, it would be a little bit more party based, but the rest of the time was about that.
You're jumping on AIM. You're talking about what you're going to do at practice.
Yeah, exactly.
No. All right.
Then you put up your away message at Dick's Barn.
At Dick's Barn. You have to be careful around then what you put up, maybe. But okay, so that's. I think I saw someone. Maybe it was you, but I saw people. We complain and bitch about like the lack of physical activity now, or people on their screens too much and on their phones. And it's like, oh, why is my kid, not going outside? Why are they on their phones? So it's like, well, they just do what you're doing.
Yeah. Yes.
So if that's what you're doing, so instead you had. Like the example is, oh no, this is what we do.
Yeah, and I think that's my whole thought. Kids, my children. I'm a millennial, right? And the millennials are the next version of the boomers. And for our kids to grow up and get out of the screen control, is we have to, as parents, provide one, structure and rules and accountability, but two, an example of. Look, when it snows, we still got to go outside and do this and get ready to go do work, because these are the days that are going to separate us from everybody else.
Right.
Somebody else who's just as good as you is not going to train today, and you will. And there's going to be another person who's not as good as you that will train today, and they're going to catch you. So it's like always keeping that type of edge, I think, is really important.
Always be working. It's the one. It's a thing inside of your control to do, right?
Yes, yeah.
You can't control who your mom and dad are,
right? Or
maybe even where your facilities are. But if you have somewhere to train, you can figure that out.
Get it done, yeah.
Okay, so that's early life, I guess. So you started with wrestling. It sounds like because your father. So did you swim at all? Did you do it competitively?
I swam up until 9th grade, and then like 8th grade was my last year, and I was pretty good. But the biggest thing for me, one, I got really big. I started to lift a lot at the end of 8th grade, and I had my wrestling coach. Jake's coach was very goal-oriented, but goal-oriented related to how many times you're going to lift, how many times, like what are you going to do with your maxes and stuff like that. And I think that's what I would make as a plea to anyone in life is like, I recognize very early on, 13 to 15, what I was passionate about. My dad, we would go to the grocery store, and he would let me. So there was these old racks. It would just be magazine racks, right? And you could see what magazines you wanted to get, and he would let us pick a magazine. So I would pick like muscle fitness or whatever the body
sort of men's health. Yeah,
exactly.
At that time, yeah.
So we would get that. Then I would bring it home. I would read the articles. I would try and write down rep schemes and stuff like that. And we did have a strength coach at our high school who was also very impactful on me. He was the first guy that showed me Iron Mind videos. So wow. Yeah. So I think, and this is the plea I make to people and to kids. I'm like, look, when you're 13 to 16, you're going to do something that you like and that you really take to.
Sure.
It might be playing the piano. It might be lifting weights. It might be sports specific, like throwing more, whatever it might be, wrestling more, doesn't matter, swimming more. Reading books, writing, drawing, artistic work, engineering, especially now, being able to have access to those things. And I think at that age, 13 to 16, for me personally, is that I recognize early on, I had a goal. Okay, so I had a goal and I had a passion, and that passion was athletics.
Yeah.
And that sub-passion was lifting weights, because I knew that lifting weights made me better at my sport. And I just got so focused on it. And that's all I wanted to think about. That's all I wanted to do. That's all I would talk to everybody. That's where my social life was. And I think that early on for kids, it's important to try and get them to find something they're passionate about, and then just foster and develop that over time, because then later on in life, they can do that passionate thing to make money off of.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're actually going to like your job. And then you're going to, because you're passionate about it, you're going to fucking care about your job, and you'll take it seriously, and you'll want to make money so that you can keep doing your job better. And the job that you're doing is what you're passionate about. So it's like this cool cycle.
Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of lesson I think we've seen a lot of people who are parents are just locked into whatever they're doing. It's like, oh, well, I had a kid and I had to make money, so this is where I'm at,
Yeah,
sort of
and
thing.
then
Or even if they
yeah.
planned on like, oh, I'm going to be a doctor because that's what you should be, and you're not necessarily into be doctoring,
Right.
whatever it is. We've watched them like burn out. Sometimes I'll say this, man, like being in the gym industry, sometimes I'm like, oh man, maybe just square away money and you're good. Good.
Well,
But I still feel like you. I still feel like every day I can say for myself, I'm never doing something I don't want to be doing.
Yeah, and
that's very fortunate.
I think I don't want to get too far off your questions because I know you have a list, but I think in the gym industry, the challenge becomes, it is not that we're in the gym or it's not that we're doing, it's not the act of what we're doing in the gym that we dislike. It's that, okay, so when I think about my passion, wanting to lift more, wanting to be more in sports performance, and a lot of this also was football related. I was a lot of me, once it was wrestling, it was really wrestling and football. Then once I started to play football, I was really geared up to get in to play football and wrestle, right? And when I think about it, I would spend in a day, let's say 2 to 2.5 hours, right, like reading the magazines, watching videos, watching. There was an old website called Can Throws. There was a website. T Nation was just coming up, so I would go on T Nation a lot, and I would spend probably 2 hours a day trying to learn, right? And then I would spend 2 to 4 hours a day training. And I think that's the sustainable rate. So, like, you would probably like to read, let's just say for an hour to an hour and a half a day on training. And then you would like to write programs for maybe an hour where you're really thinking through the process and thinking through what you read and thinking about your athletes. And then you might want to train your athletes for 2 to 4 hours, and then your day's done.
Yeah.
The shitty part is that you take that, okay, that's like a 6-hour day. And that would be awesome if that was just your day.
Sure.
But then to make ends meet, because we're poor business people and we don't think about business.
Yeah.
We're in the gym for 12 to 14 hours to make the ends meet. Yeah. And that's where the disdain for the gym
you just
comes.
Have to do so much.
Yeah, you have to do. It's like a farmer. Like literally, if you look at what farmers are, they're marketers, they're planters, they're harvesters, they have to be meteorologists, and that's how
they have to know how to sell the product. Like everything. There's a certain time of market. It's like, oh man, I'm only going to get this pound for what, or price per pound.
Yeah. So then great. They have,
So we're saying we have to like come up with like, all right, what do I have to price this stuff for? And I have to figure out my bullshit, my marketing archetype and all this crap.
Right. Yeah. Who are we talking to? Who are we trying to sell to? Well, I'm better with this person than that person. So like, that's the part of the business of fitness that like becomes unsustainable. It's not the fact that you have this, and this. It's that we do too much of it in one day, and that's what wears us down because we're not thinking about we don't look at the business the same way that we would look at training. Really?
No.
Like, what's the lowest hanging fruit? What's the lowest hanging fruit to get somebody's squat up, or to get somebody not even their squat? What's the lowest hanging fruit to get somebody's total up in weightlifting? Squat more. Okay. What if their squat's really high? What's the weak? Snatch more. Okay. What's the weak in the clean jerk? They're jerk. Do more jerks. Like you get troubleshooted easily. We don't do that for business. Yeah. No. Well, what's wrong? Well, I don't have enough customers. How do you get more customers? Leads. What are leads? Trying to figure out how to get people to come in.
Yeah. Just need more people to come in. Of course.
Sorry, I'm getting off track.
No. Well, I wanted to do business at some point, so we're touching on it at least a little bit. Okay, so I want to go more into that's your formative year. That's where you're coming up. So in high school, you said you're picking up more into football. You're throwing that. I mean, you're on a throws website, fucking 2 hours every day. So
by 10th grade, I started to throw. So 10th grade, I went out for baseball, and I told my dad so there was another catcher, and I caught, and I said to my dad, if they don't put me on varsity, I'm not I'm not playing baseball anymore, because by this time I had started at D end my freshman and sophomore year. I was good as a football player. I ended up being a 2-time All-State football guy. And so that was my priority. And I had said to my dad, if they don't put me on varsity for baseball, I'm going to go throw, because they lift at throws practice.
So you get to lift more.
Yeah. So they did that. And I immediately went over to track and took to throwing really well. And I really enjoyed throwing. It was like a different version of football. minus the CTE, you know, and
it's high intensity.
Yeah. And so I really liked it, and it paired well with football and with wrestling. And then my junior year, I broke my arm wrestling, so I lost that season. And that was like, at the time, wrestling and football were what I loved. And then when that happened, I had a terrible squat. I started squatting like crazy, but I couldn't squat. I had to use safety squat bar, right? So my arm was like this permanently for about 3.5 months. So when I came out for track my junior year, I just popped off. I was dropping bombs, like blew up by like 15 feet on my PR.
Putting more force into the ground, man.
Yeah. Went on, medaled at states my junior year, and didn't end up wrestling my senior year because I wanted to win a state title for track. Did really well with football again. And then basically it was like, do I want to go? I want to go to a Power 5 school. I wanted to play football, but the best offers I got were from Temple, Kent State, and a lot of
for football.
For football, yeah. A lot of the FCS schools, so the 1AA schools at the time, like Lehigh, lower level.
Yeah.
And for me, I wanted to go play like in a big stadium. So at that time, it was like, okay, Kent State was terrible. They're still terrible. Temple was terrible at the time. Then they got really good. Not really good, but they were like, when I was in college, they were like 8-4, 9-3. They weren't terrible.
Yeah.
But those are the only schools that offered me. And then Penn State, Virginia Tech, all these schools were recruiting me for track. So that's what I decided to do.
Nice. Okay. So then throws probably accelerate then, like collegiately. That's the point. It's like, okay, that's what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
I got to focus on that. Okay. How far do you feel like you got in throws? Like what's I guess talk about your career in that a little bit.
So for me, I went, so the system was you would go to, in the NCAA, you would have throwing at Penn State, you're in the Big Ten, you go to Big Tens, then after Big Tens, there'd be regionals, and there was 4 regions, and if you were top 5, you made the NCAA championship. So my freshman year, I got 6th in the region, so I missed by 1 spot, and I had PR'd through pretty well. Missed by 1 spot. I think I got 7th at Big Tens. I got 6th at regionals at the East region. And then I came back my sophomore year and I got 3rd at regionals and made NCAAs. And I had done decently at the Big Ten. The Big Ten was stacked in the shot that year. And what happened with me was like, I was so in high school, I was so focused on this goal. I just wanted to do, I was just going to throw. Okay. I'd go to college and I wasn't as focused. I loved drinking. I loved partying. I loved trying to get girls. Like I was obsessed with all these things.
You love college, basically.
Yes. And it really pushed me off track, like very, very badly. In the sense that like I wasn't focused. I had lost like the passionate side that I had. I think some of that, I will blame a little bit of that on coaching, but like 95% of that is like the fact that I just kept slowly, and like the success I had sophomore year, I was like, going in like, I'm coming back. I'm a NCAA qualifier. I almost acted like it would be
a little
easy.
bit like I'm the shit.
Yeah, it would be easy to be an All-American.
Yeah.
And that was my sole goal going into college, was like, if I can just graduate and become an All-American, I'm going to be happy. And so the more I drank, the more that disappeared, really, right? So junior year, they had told me they were going to redshirt me, mainly because of the way things were lining up with they hadn't redshirted me yet.
Mm-hmm.
They redshirted me indoors. Just all this shit happened, right? So then I act like a child and I just keep drinking more. Come back my 4th year, and they're like, okay, we're going to redshirt you outdoors, not indoors. Long story short, I let this just dig and bother me because I had wanted to redshirt actually as a freshman, but I was throwing well, so they didn't want to redshirt me. And I was learning the spin too and going back and forth. So all this stuff was sort of bothering me with learning the spin.
Oh, shit. So you didn't learn spin until college?
College.
Wow. Okay.
And I threw far with the glide as a freshman. I threw, this is my claim to fame. I threw the exact same distance my freshman year that Joe Kovacs threw his freshman year. He went to Penn State. We both threw 17:46 as a freshman, and I did mine with a glide. Yeah.
Wow.
So drinking and partying and all that stuff really derailed me, like substantially. So much so that I dropped out of school, hitchhiked across Canada.
Yeah, I know this story. So,
Yeah.
So, okay.
Hitchhiked across Canada, lived in Canada for a bit, and came back home. And then went back to school for my 5th year. Did okay. Didn't make it to. And dude, I just fell off. It was like 3 years of just mediocrity, shittiness, not competing well, not being confident in the movement, not being focused. And so I got my degree in religious studies, which I loved. I really did like that. But it was like I was going to school. I loved my degree. I loved what I was learning. And then it was like, what do I want to do more, party or throw? And 2.5 years out of those 3,
it was party.
It was party.
Yeah.
And that really like led to this point where I left school and I was like, I'm not an All-American. Like, what was I doing?
Oh, damn.
Like, yeah. Like, dude, I snatched 110 kilos in high school in sneakers.
Yeah.
Like, I had a 33 plus vertical. Like, these are things that, like, in high school, like, these without, like, I would lift, do snatches once a week. We were on this old school traditional style training. And I'm like, looking back, even now, when I watch my videos, I'm like, how did I that up? What the?
You're doing good things with, like, limited knowledge and application.
Literally, right? My high school strength coach was like good, like a good coach.
Yeah.
And like going into college, like
a higher level for that time. Like I remember my high school strength coach was our football coach who, he had his like kinesiology degree, and he just gave us like bigger, faster, stronger. And like,
no, our guy was like legit,
and that was fine. Honestly, it worked. That's fine, right? Like, what's the goal here? It's just like create padding, and like lift weights. Okay, like that's perfectly fine, man. We didn't need anything else. But
so I think that this is the interesting part too. Is also like I went to college, and the first thing I said is we got to get you really big, really strong. So by the end of my sophomore year, I was like 290, and I think I didn't handle the weight gain well. We did a lot of low bar squats. I got stupid strong. I still remember one Sunday being hungover in the fall, like literally, go to bed at 3 a.m, come into the Sunday lift at like 12, and we would go lift. So there was wrestling matches at Penn State were on Sunday. We go in and we lift, hungover as hell. And I still remember this, squatting 600 for 6 low bar, 600, like just stupid strong, going in and watching wrestling. And then on Monday, Tuesday, barely being able to move because I was so heavy, and I just felt I was strong, but I wasn't like snappy anymore. I had lost like that bounce that I had.
Yeah.
On top of the fact that I was drunk most.
It's not just mass moves mass.
Yeah.
Sorry, Glenn Penley. It's not the truth.
It's not that simple.
Yeah, it's not.
And it's also like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday drinking.
Yeah. You doesn't help your recovery the entire time.
Yeah.
So, okay, when you did the hitchhiking across Canada, was that to go see Dr. B, or was that at a later time?
No, that was the irony behind it, is that I just wanted to travel and be by myself and spend time alone and do the the bullshit like introspective thing, find yourself.
Yeah, you're a religious studies major.
Yeah, like all the feel good.
That's good. People got to do that. I think it's
I genuinely needed to do it. I needed to spend time alone and get away from. I actually. Were you sitting there when I was like, actually, I think Will might have been there. Actually, Will was not there. This morning, I was like, I struggle to get away from my high school friends. And they're at times a negative influence on me.
Yeah.
And traveling and hitchhiking got me away from them.
Yeah.
It's like they couldn't bother me.
Basically, like a year after high school, I moved to Berkeley. I was like, going to go to Cal and all this stuff. I was just getting away from my friend group, and I failed there. Like it wasn't like partying or anything like that. I actually failed because I had like no credit and I couldn't like find another living space. So I only like lasted a year, but it was so important to show me. I don't think I had like a negative friend group, but I didn't have a group that was interested in more or seeing like, hey, can you do it outside of your bubble, right?
Yes.
And so that was huge.
I think that's where that time.
I did that. So I moved 500 miles away from home. So it's not too much. I moved from Southern California to Northern California, right? But then like I come back and I'm like, oh yeah, moving, whatever it is, 2,000 plus miles to Charlotte to train with this crazy bearded guy and like go all in weightlifting. Like that doesn't seem so strange.
Yeah,
it's like
I can do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You proved to yourself you can do it.
Like I can figure it out.
That's where I think it's not just that time away to spend time being introspective, but it is also like you're proving like, wow, this isn't hard. I can do this.
You can. So you need that. But okay, so you did.
So Dr. B was in Kamloops to answer, but I didn't know he was there when I went.
Oh, really? Okay.
I didn't know I knew, so I wanted to hitchhike and get to a place, Vancouver Island. And then there was an island called Salt Spring Island, still called Salt Spring Island, not that it was, And I knew I had met, and there's websites. I don't know if couch surfing still exists, but couch surfing was big.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
It was starting to come up, so it was still normal. And there was a website called DigiHitch. And I met a couple on these forums. DigiHitch was like, I need a ride from this place to this place. I'll be on this side of the road, blah, blah, blah. And people could pick you up. Okay. Real weird off story of this is I would talk to a guy on DigiHitch and then randomly picked him up like 4 years later on the side of the road. And he's like talking about this. He's telling me his name on DigiHitch. He's like, wait, we used to fucking talk on DigiHitch. So that's
wow.
Another story. Anyway, I went up there not knowing Dr. B was there. When I came back and I went back to Penn State, I was there was a throwers forum called The Ring. And The Ring was like it was like where everybody spent their time in the throws world. And this hammer thrower from the United States said, hey, Dylan Armstrong is training for the '08 Olympics, and Dr. B is here, and he wants a training group. He wants like 5 or 6 people to move up here. Is anybody interested? And I had already applied. Ironically, I was going to go to get a master's at Temple, and I was thinking I would go the route of becoming like a professor in religious studies. And I decided when I saw this, I was like, dude, I think I'm going to go up and train with Dr. B.
Yeah.
And then I went and trained with Dr. B instead of going to get my master's, because I looked at that as like, that was going to be my master's.
Yeah.
Like that was
100%.
and the fortunate thing for me, going back to my parents were never like, what are you going to go to school for to make money? They were always like, what do you want to learn? And I don't know why they were like that. I have no idea.
Why they were so chill.
My parents, like, we grew up in middle classes, like as middle class as it comes. Like parents struggled. They didn't have the greatest credit score, right? My dad had a business that went bankrupt, and he was a terrible business person and had to go back to school to become a gym teacher. That's like my parents' financial route. So like we were run of the mill. And like, I don't know why they never pressured me or my siblings to think about college as an investment to make money. They were like, no, What do you want to learn? What do you want to learn? So when I told my dad about Dr. B and my mom about Dr. B, they were like, oh no, that makes sense. That's what you should do.
I mean, it's good that they're that understanding, progressive and everything, but like, it's also legit. Like this is the guy, you know, like, you know, if you're going to take a chance on somebody, like, okay, yeah, like I'm going to go do this. And like, you're young enough that it's okay.
It won't.
Maybe that taught them. It's like, oh, you could start over and it'll be all right. You know,
that is true.
Right. So like, all right, we already saw that Dane has the ability to like kind of fuck up, like and come back and got it. Yeah. So it's like, if he comes back from this after like a year and it's fine, like it's not a big deal. So you go there and you train.
Yeah.
And that,
so learning,
I imagine that had a huge impact.
My whole goal was that I went there and I was like, I want to learn as much as I can from this dude.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know I'm going to get blown away by his training. And the first day I went in there and I'm like, going to do my warm up that we do at Penn State, right? You go through the dynamic warm up, you do your skips, you do your dynamic stretching, all the bullshit that you do. And he's standing there looking at me, and he's like, he would always say this, what you do? And he's looking, I'm like, is he fucking talking to me? Yeah, he barely speaks English, right? No. And he just starts pointing at the circle, and Dylan's like this huge caveman looking dude, and he's like, yo, bro, you just gotta get in a fucking circle. We don't do that shit. And it's like literally like No, this is what you do, and this is how you warm up. You warm up in this circle. You take 3 standing throws, you go to full throw. That's it. And I remember being like, okay,
All right.
I'm just going to go all in.
That's what I do.
Yeah. So that's like the first. It was a great experience, and with Dr. B, he was so open to talking, and I do think at the time I was sort of like a favorite. Like he just would listen and let me ask him tons of questions.
Sure.
Like there was me, Dylan, this kid Jesse. Jesse's a great guy. Dylan's a great guy, and Justin Rohde came later, and I there was something like Dr. B would let me come to his house. He'd be laying on his couch, and I would just sit there and fucking ask him literally thousands of questions. And I have all my notebooks and stuff from that time. And I think there was such a formidable point in my career. And what's interesting is that a lot of the stuff I learned from him, I might not even use a lot of it, but his approach, and he would always say, like, there's so many different ways to coach, but no matter what, if you're a coach, you have to have a system. And when now as I'm older and I've coached a lot, and I've been to decent levels, it's like system to me is like a process and how you make these decisions with people along their journey, along their path. And if you don't have a process behind how you think, it could fall off the rails. That's literally the best lesson I think and he would always say, you have to learn from the athletes. You can read all the books. And he would call people like white coats.
Yeah. That's right.
So he was in the lab. He's a PhD, but he was a coach.
But he's a coach.
Yeah. So he coached world record holders. He himself was Olympic champ and Olympic bronze medalist. And he would always say how people like Verkhoshansky they're the white coats. They were so in the lab, and they were never in the experience. So they weren't learning from their athletes. They were learning from research studies. And he's like, that's not the same.
And they're years behind, honestly.
Yeah.
Like not to like maybe it's better now, but you can always say like we're in the fields, like we're there in the real life laboratory making decisions, figuring shit out. And like, it's not good science in the sense that it's like completely controlled and regulated, but guess what? The real world isn't.
Yeah.
But so they'll see all the stuff that happens, and then 10 years later, like do an analysis on it. It's like, oh yeah, it looks like that works. It's like, well, yeah, I knew that.
And
10 years ago.
We're on version 15.3.
Exactly. So
of that. Yeah.
So I loved that about it because, like, that's why you go. It's like there's a guy heavily invested in the scientific process. Yeah. He did it. He did it, and he helped other people do it. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm a great athlete. I also made the people,
exactly. Yeah. And I think that still holds for me, where it's like, and what's crazy with the tools that we have access to is that, we have this access to VBT, to like pretty good VBT feedback, right?
Right.
We have access to, force plates are more affordable. I have I have a laser set at my gym where I can get splits through 60 meters. Like,
it's more affordable, more accessible than ever.
It's crazy. And it's like, the more that's happening, the more our shit is the research, and even more so. So it's like, it's cool because we have a guy that works on our staff, and he's a statistician. And it's like, we test every 13 to 14 weeks, depending upon the quarter and how the quarter falls in the seasons. And now on site, it's like every single quarter, we have 180 tests that we can give to our statistician and say, okay, what do you see out of this? And you get a 45-page report of the whole case study of the whole gym. And where I'm going with this, to relate it back to Dr. B, is like, you're seeing then what you're doing and what you're changing and what your focus is in the gym on those specific periods, and whether or not it's working for a large group and whether or not it's working for the individuals. And I think that's the biggest lesson for me, was to have a process and to learn from your athletes.
Yeah. Okay. So you go to the Kamloops, and then like how long did you last in that system, or like
just a little? So I was there for a little more than a year, and then I moved back home.
And is that essentially the end of the Dane throwing career, basically? Or
so this is the irony here: is I come home, and my dad was like, I'm dating my current, like my wife. So we were dating at the time. And she had sort of said too, like, if you stay up there, I don't think we should stay together. So that was a positive choice of me to leave 4 kids later, right?
Sure.
And a great relationship with her. And so for me, it was like, come home. And then my dad was like, okay, I think you should try to figure out what you're going to do in life. In a good fatherly way, not like, hey, you're wasted. You should move on.
Sure. He's just trying to help you out.
Yeah, like the little nudge.
Yeah.
And that's when I started. So that's when I started garage strength.
Garage strength. So that's 08, right?
Yeah. So I didn't throw for like 3 or 4 years. I'm trying to think through when Lincoln was born. So Caitlin was 8 months. Caitlin was 7 or 8 months pregnant with Lincoln, and I was like, I never broke 60 feet. I'm going to come back and throw. And she's like, what? I was like, yeah, I'm going to come back and throw. And I threw for 2 more years and ended up PRing when I had Lincoln with me at, Lincoln's like 8 months old, and I'd be bottle feeding him. She would be pumping at work, and I would be out training, throwing in the snow and shit. Lincoln would be taking naps in my Subaru Forester, and I would be training. And I use some of the stuff from Dr. B, some of the stuff from Paula Quinn and Adam Nelson, who was Olympic champ in 04, who we linked up because of Dr. B, really, and use that to sort of really, and I'm like, I'm running a business working 60 hours a week. I got my son with me. We just bought a house, building the business. And with that, it created this cool foundation for how I was going to train throwers, because I ended up PRing. And I'm like, this doesn't even make sense. Why would I PR now? I should have PR'd before. Yeah. But that's the efficacy, I think, is I figured out what the hell is going to work. For a thrower.
This took all that time.
Yeah.
So move home, and it's like time to get your shit together, and that's the reason Garage Strength's born.
Yep.
So would you call it, like, this is what I wanted to anchor the conversation around. It's kind of the death of athlete Dane and the beginning of Coach Dane.
Yeah.
Right? Do you think that's the formal beginning, if you're going to do that?
Yes. Yeah. Because I think I'll say this. I think that during the time with Dr. B, I think I also was developing. I knew that during the time with Dr. B, I would eventually transition to coach. I knew this.
So that you were planning on it like the whole time.
Yeah. So it's like when I was still home, I would get people that would message me like, yo, can you write me a training program? Yo, could you give me this lifting program? And when I was even with Dr. B, there's a guy named John Kalnis, who was a 3-time All-American. And I was up with Dr. B, and he was like, yo, write me a training program. I'm going to pay you to be my coach. He was sending me like $40, right? Mm-hmm. So I knew at that point, I'm like 24, 25. Derek Everly was asking me questions because he had left Kamloops. He used to live there.
Yeah.
He had left, and then he was asking me, what's going on? What do you see? What are you learning? Blah, blah, blah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I started to realize, like, I have some knowledge of something that people want. I think I can help people. And John Kalnis PR'd that year that I was at Dr. B's, and I was writing his programming. So he threw 2019, and he's a shorter guy, 5'10", pops off his video is still on YouTube. It's one of my favorite throws video of all time because he just goes apeshit. And I had realized, like, okay, I could do something.
So you want to do this. And so the idea, but is your coaching oriented around throws at this point? It's like, I'm going to coach throws.
I still had a lot of wrestlers though, because I would, a lot meaning like 2 or 3. I would have kids of like people that I knew from when I was in high school. They knew I was stronger, and being a state champ and stuff and all that sort of bullshit. Like you get, like, I was semi well known in the area. And I also, YouTube started in 05. Okay, so this has another layer, is that when I went to Dr. B, I was in close contact with a guy named Ross Enamite. So Ross Enamite ran a website called Ross Boxing, rosstraining.com. I think it still exists. I don't know how much he does. But he was just super intense boxing fight coach. And I always had an interest in training wrestlers. So I sort of had a little pulse in these other side areas, because I like to read it, going back to the passion when I was like 13 to 16 years old.
Yeah.
And so I still had a connection to a lot of wrestlers in the area. Ironically, my first athlete to ever make a state championship was a wrestler before it was a thrower. So when I'm trying to think about what your question was. So for me, it was
are you going to coach other areas? Basically,
yeah. I still.
Some people go in. So I just wanted to see, like, okay, I'm starting garage strength. I know I need to make a living, but you probably know, kind of like we talked about, that just to make a living at the shit, it's like, all right, I'm probably not going to make a living only coaching throwers, right? Or only training one kind of athlete, right? So, when the garage strength project begins, you're thinking, okay, of course, I finally figured out what it takes to like make good throwers, but I'm going to apply the system to other athletes. Right?
So also Dr. B had worked a bit with Karelin.
Oh yeah.
So he had some influence in the Soviet system.
Yeah.
So he would talk about what they would ask him because his PhD was in sport pedagogy.
Yeah.
So he would talk through like how his approach, and because of his coaching experience, other people and the openness inside the Soviet Union, he would talk about how inside the Soviet Union, the openness amongst coaches was very big. Mm-hmm. They were very open to sharing information. And so he would then share that type of stuff with me. And I think that helped me realize, like, you don't have to just be in a one-track area for just throwing or just weight. Well, at this time I had...
Well, having a system, having a process,
it could carry over.
The skills of coachability also carry over. Like, it's an important thing. Like being how you have to carry yourself as a coach, how you have to communicate. Yeah. You said you learned two really important things: having a process/system, listening to athletes. I could say that about every sport.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah. Right. So that's okay.
I think too, for me, not to cut you off there, I think for me, I always wanted people to like me. I know this sounds weird.
Okay.
But I knew if I was successful in a lot of sports, athletics, people would like me. Like, that was my take. I would have more people like me and then come to the gym.
Have you done a disc profile? Are you a high DI? Is that what you are?
Probably. So that, I think that had an impact. Is like I always was, and I think that actually had a big impact on me being a good coach early. Because I didn't want to fuck up. I didn't want to have kids like not be good. I wanted everybody.
Oh, well, that means you care.
I wanted everybody to go to states. I wanted everybody to be a fucking state champ. I wanted everybody to be an All-American. That's all I think about. And it was like, I think there's some underlying trauma that like motivated it.
Sure, yeah. I feel that way. Like it's kind of fucked up. Like I inherently enjoy coaching because it's service. It is helping others achieve their goals, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And like being able to play a role and a part of that is incredibly fulfilling. Like, yes. I feel like that's the best job I could have.
Yeah.
But there is still like this deep-seated, like, it's like, yep, I screwed up as an athlete and I didn't fulfill my own achievements. So it's like, it's that fucked up, like, parent, living through their kids' achievements, like a little bit. There's like a little bit part of it, like that traumatic area.
But the messed up part would be if you were like negative towards your athletes. I wouldn't compare you to the parent.
No, I don't feel that. Like, I don't harp on that. No, like, but I still feel that like
spectrum of.
Well, I think about it now when I coach a kid. Do you know what I feel like? I was like, I want them to have the opportunities I didn't, or something like that. Or I want them to get the things I couldn't. Like, that's how I feel.
That you were striving for.
If they want it, Yeah. I'm not gonna force my will on them, but it's like if they come and they tell me like, I want to be as good as I can. It's like, okay, I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure, because I know, and like, from your mistakes, like what they can avoid. It's like, I have all these lessons that I can offer you from my failures and mistakes, so you can avoid them. And I want you to get all the things that I didn't get to realize because of that. So I don't know. That's the trauma part that I've got.
No, but, I can relate to that.
Okay. Last thing, because I have to have super important performance meetings. The last thing I wanted to ask you about. So having gone through all that, I have this theory about coach. Oh, there's like,
you're missing something. We're gonna have to do another part.
We're gonna do another something. But to cap it on coaching. So I'm big on the idea that a coach must have done sport. They must have done athletics, right? And you basically confirmed that because you've had a whole history from your upbringing up to starting it where you parents that are coaches, these sports at every level. You competed at a very high level. You made it to NCAAs. You're a scholarship athlete. I call that a high level. Like a very, dare we say, elite level of throwing, right? Like you're in one of the.
I wouldn't go that
throws.
far, but
yeah,
sub elite. But
no, I feel that way too. Like, but people would call it.
Yeah.
If
I was in another country, I'd be elite.
Exactly.
And if it wasn't,
yeah. So you went really far. I don't think you necessarily have to have been the Dr. B, Olympic gold medalist to be a great coach or anything like that. But I believe that you must have spent time in sport going through the trials and tribulations that an athlete does so that you can better relate and coach. And I think you'll agree with that. Like Bill Belichick was successful. He played football, but not at any like meaningful level.
Yeah, but Bill Belichick was a manager and doing the process duties when he was like 21, 22 years old. So think about the fact that was he playing sport at the highest level? No, but when he was a D3 intern / coach at that young of an age, he was putting in the time and like learning the sport and the game strategically.
So it's time in sport still. It's just a different angle. So I believe like
it's an unconventional version, but he was still there.
My own like sporting achievements were not like elite or what I want, but I did spend time being, for lack of a better term, as professional of an athlete. It was my profession for a period of time, and I'm committed to it, and that carries over.
I think where I would agree. Okay, I think the struggle I have is that I believe that a lot of coaches that were athletes fail or struggle with transitioning to coaching because they want to constantly relate to the athlete, and they will, well, when I was an athlete, blah blah blah. Well, when I did this, blah blah blah. When I was an athlete, wow. Well, just how it is. I think the relatability is much more in the fact that and I think this is where you're saying is like, dude, I think about where I messed up as an athlete, and I think about every time, and now I don't think about it all the time so that I'm like beating myself down, but I go, what did I need as an athlete? I needed these things, and I wish this stuff was set in line for me because it would have helped me be better.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's what especially early on, I was setting everything up to get me. And I still say this to this day. Everything I do, Peak Strength is an app that we sell that I literally program, and I say, I want Dane Miller in Idaho to have access to me and have access to my training right now, so that Dane Miller in Idaho or whoever is able to have things I didn't have.
Yes.
And as a coach, if you are able to reflect on your career and see where your shortcomings were as an athlete, then you can make up in your system those shortcomings, which thus improves further athlete development.
Same. Yeah. I 100%.
And I think that's where and that's why I agree with you. Yeah. So like the downfall, so when you told me this at lunch, that this is your first thing, I had to think through this a lot because I was like, at first I put up a wall and I'm like, I don't agree with you entirely.
Okay.
So I wanted to think through it and not shit my brain out on you right away.
Yeah.
But I think as I think through it more, and as I told you I had to go to the bathroom, so I'm in there in the bathroom and I'm like thinking through that a little bit further. I agree with you, but I agree with you if the coach stops talking about themselves.
No, I've seen it where it's like, okay, well, I was Olympic champion and I did this, and it's like, okay, like I think it's more of an unspoken. So like when I committed to doing weightlifting, like as far as I could go, I was very aware, like, dude, you're not going to the Olympics, okay?
Yeah.
But like, let's see how far you can go. So don't live with regret. Don't live with an unknown.
Yeah.
And so that like it's certain, and that's
that
fine.
Reality is big,
and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I knew, like, I think when I'm done, I want to. I'm not sure that I'll like be as a profession, but I think I do want to coach. I want to help out. So to me, it was an education. So it's kind of like unspoken knowledge. So like when I'm writing programs or when I'm thinking about my system or thinking about how to help, I remember it's like, oh yeah, I have to consider these things like travel. And like, because I've done it, I've traveled to the other side of the world. I'm more aware of it, right? Or
Do you ever
something like
think this is totally off? I really like what you're saying there. Do you ever think, man, these kids travel? They travel across the world. They perform way better than I would have if I was traveling.
Yeah, sometimes.
I sit
Yeah,
there,
man.
I'm like, man, when I went to Tokyo 2 weeks ago, I'm like, God damn, I feel like shit.
It's
I don't
brutal.
know. Yeah. So
I think of all those things, and that's kind of unspoken into the system. And then if there's like a really relevant question that they have, where they're like, I'm feeling a certain way, it's like, okay, like I'll remember, like I'll go to the
play that game.
encyclopedia of like, okay, yeah, well, I felt this way,
Yeah.
so I'm more relatable to them when they're asking.
Yes.
But it's not so much like shoving it down their throat.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So that's what I'm getting at. Whereas, yeah, more for me, like I said earlier, it's like, okay.
I also don't think I don't think you're the coach I think about.
Yeah, no, I didn't
just to
think
be
you
clear
did.
too. I think it's like
But I know the coach you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I understand where you're like, nah, man, we don't need that, and that is a problem.
It's funny too that you brought up Belichick because I have like full transparency, a huge Belichick fan.
Yeah.
My business has 4 pillars that are literally based off of his 4 pillars that he used to hang at the New England Patriots in the stadium. I could name you those 4 if you want, and like that's what our business is based off of. And I was even thinking like, well, do you have to come from a rich family to be rich? No, but and in this case, even with athleticism and with developing athletes, I think if you have been in athletics and you have pushed yourself as far as you can go for your own ability, and then you go into coaching, and as long as you don't keep it about you, but you keep it about developing the athlete, that experience that you had is going to be, as an athlete, is going to pay massive dividends later on as a coach. Dude, as weird as this is, the bullshit I posted yesterday on Instagram about med balls are overrated, I knew that they were overrated because I snatched, I cleaned, I squatted growing up. I watched the Werner Gunther VHS cassettes that this guy, Paul Ferenczi, gave me, who was a world champion Highland Games guy. It was more beneficial for me to do hurdle hops like Werner Gunther, to run hill sprints, to do bounds like Werner Gunther, to do cleans, to do snatches, to do benches. That's what made me a good high school athlete. Yeah. And I knew it did because I felt it. I did it all.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't throwing med balls.
You have to have had the education.
I'd shit on the dude throwing med balls.
No. You have to have the education yourself. And that, so I coaxed the answer I wanted out of Dane. He confirmed my bias, so we're successful.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep asking other coaches this. And I think I
do like that question though. I think it's good to think through it as a challenge.
I don't think you need to be elite. I think you need to have committed to the process.
Well, I think elite also should be defined. In my opinion, it's elite based off of your capability.
Yes. No. I want you to spend time. That's it. Like, how far did you push?
Yeah. In
whatever
this
it is.
situation.
And then, like you're being successful, in a variety of sports, having kind of focused, ultimately in one arena. You did other shit, but and now you're applying those lessons broadly. So you didn't need to be, at the big school D1 football player necessarily to like help football players be better. But that's all I'm getting at. You must have lived like the athlete must now live.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
that's a good way to put it.
That's how I feel about it. And I have way more I want to talk to you about.
Give me one more if you can.
I can't. I
Jackie might be mad.
I got to go do this thing.
What time is it? Okay, it's 2.
So thank you for listening. We're gonna have to do another one. That's it. That's it for now. But thanks for confirming my bias, bro.
Head over to garagestrength.com. Download Peak Strength. Peak Strength. Peak Strength. Peace.